The space station Virelia Prime floated like a jeweled crown above the shining blue world of Navor. Its walls were lined with banners of dozens of alien nations, each symbol glimmering with pride. Here, future officers of the Galactic Coalition came to train, to learn, and to test their courage among allies and rivals alike. Among them walked Princess Lyria of Veldar, heir to a powerful empire of warriors and nobles. Her golden armor shimmered with the crest of her royal house, and her violet eyes watched everything with calm dignity. Wherever she stepped, the other cadets bowed slightly or moved aside. She was not only royal blood, she was also one of the top-ranked tacticians in her class. The day she arrived, a new batch of recruits was being introduced. The instructor, a tall reptilian being with 4 eyes, barked names from a datapad. When he called, "Human Cadet Alex Ryder," Lyria barely looked up. The human stepped forward, a young man in a plain gray uniform, his hair slightly messy, his boots not perfectly polished. He stood straight, but not in the stiff, formal way the other cadets did. He gave a small nod instead of a full salute. "Human male, Earth origin," the instructor read aloud. "Background, tactical studies, 0 combat record." A faint laugh rippled through the alien ranks. Humans were new to the coalition, barely out of their home system. Most believed them to be reckless, emotional, and far too fragile to compete with species that had fought wars for centuries. Princess Lyria's lip curved slightly. "He will not last a week," she murmured to her aide. But when Alex turned his head, his eyes met hers. For a moment she saw something strange there. Not arrogance, not fear, but quiet focus. The kind that made her uneasy for reasons she couldn't explain. The training days were long and exhausting. Cadets ran zero-gravity combat drills, practiced strategy simulations, and studied alien history. Lyria, being the princess, often led her team in every exercise. She was disciplined, precise, and proud. Alex Ryder, however, seemed content to stay in the background. He followed orders, helped others, and never argued. But whenever something went wrong, when a system failed, when a simulation crashed, when a strategy backfired, he was the one who quietly fixed it. Once, during a live-fire drone test, a targeting system malfunctioned, sending blaster rounds toward the observation deck. Lyria shouted orders, but before anyone reacted, Alex had already reached the control panel and rerouted the fire system. The deck lights turned green again, and the crisis ended before it began. "How did you know the override code?" the instructor demanded. Alex shrugged. "Just guessed the logic pattern." Lyria raised an eyebrow. No one guessed military encryption. But he said it so simply that the instructor moved on. Days turned into weeks, and the cadets began their fleet coordination exercise, a massive simulation that linked hundreds of young officers through shared command terminals. They were to defend a colony world from a pirate invasion using virtual fleets. Princess Lyria's team was expected to win. Her tactics were legendary among the instructors. The other cadets admired her confidence, some even feared it. At the start of the simulation, she looked across the control room. Alex Ryder sat at the far console working silently. He wasn't part of her team, but somehow he kept glancing at the global map like he could already see the outcome. When the simulation began, Lyria's fleet advanced quickly, forming perfect formations. But halfway through, an unknown algorithm caused half the defense grid to fail. Pirate ships appeared behind her main line. Her team panicked. Orders clashed. Then from across the room, Alex's voice came over the shared comm channel. "Princess, pull your carrier line back 15 degrees and angle your drones along axis 5. "Trust me," she froze. "You are not in my chain of command, Cadet." "I know," he said. "But you're about to lose your entire right flank." Her aide whispered, "Maybe we should—" Lyria hesitated, then decided to test him. "Do it," she ordered her operators. Within moments, the enemy formation collapsed. The pirates' hidden ships were forced into open space, right into her fleet's firing range. The simulation ended with her side victorious. When the scores appeared, Lyria's team was ranked first, and Alex's name appeared quietly among the assisting strategists. Afterward, she approached him. "How did you know about the hidden formation?" she asked. He smiled faintly. "Pirates always hide behind what they fear losing. That is not in the manual. Manuals are written by people who survived," Alex said softly. "But not everyone writes the truth." Lyria didn't answer. She walked away, but something about his tone stayed with her all night. A few days later, alarms suddenly blared through the station. Red lights flashed in every corridor. The intercom roared. Incoming hostile contact, unknown vessels emerging from warp. Cadets scattered as instructors shouted orders. Lyria's first instinct was to reach the command center. Her royal guards followed closely. Through the main viewport, she saw them. Pirate raiders, real ones this time, not a simulation. Over a dozen ships surrounded the station, firing plasma rounds that tore through the shields. The station's senior officers were off-site for a diplomatic meeting, leaving the cadets and a handful of security units in charge. Lyria took command of the control bridge. "Seal the hangars. Activate emergency shields," she ordered. Her voice was firm, but fear crawled up her spine. The pirates weren't testing, they were destroying. Behind her, Alex stepped quietly to a side console. "Power's dropping faster than we can route," he said calmly. "They're targeting the fusion lines." "How do you know that?" she demanded. "I watched their fire pattern. Same tactic they used against the Tillian convoy last year." "You were there?" He didn't answer. His fingers moved quickly over the control panel. "We can't fight them head-on, but if we flood the vent arrays with coolant gas, their scanners will think the station exploded. They'll pull back long enough for us to reroute power." "That's risky," one of the alien officers protested. "It'll work," Alex said simply. Lyria looked at him, then at the flashing red lights around them. She nodded. "Do it." For 5 long minutes, the station shook as explosions thundered outside. Then suddenly silence. The pirates' ship slowed, confused by the false readings. "Power rerouted," an officer shouted. "Shields recharging." Lyria allowed herself a breath. "Good work, Cadet Ryder." He gave a nod, sweat dripping from his brow. "We're not safe yet. They'll realize soon." Sure enough, minutes later, the pirate ships regrouped. The station was outnumbered, but this time the defense cannons were ready. Under Lyria's command, and with Alex's calm coordination, they launched a perfect counter-barrage. When the pirate ships retreated into hyperspace, cheers filled the bridge. Lyria turned toward Alex. "You disobeyed direct orders to stay in the cadet quarters." He smiled slightly. "Yes, Princess. Sorry about that," her tone softened. "You saved hundreds of lives." "Only because you gave the order," he replied. For the first time, she looked at him differently. He wasn't just another trainee. His movements, his timing, his voice, they spoke of experience, the kind only real soldiers carried. "Who trained you, Cadet?" she asked quietly. He met her eyes. "Earth trains all its soldiers to expect the worst." She wanted to ask more, but before she could, the comms channel crackled with static. A message came through from the Veldar Empire. Emergency broadcast: Zarathian warfleet mobilizing at border space. "Princess Lyria, return home immediately." The words chilled the room. The Zarathians were the oldest enemies of her people, merciless conquerors. Lyria turned to her guard captain. "Prepare our transport. We leave at once." She glanced once more at Alex Ryder. "You have proven yourself today. Cadet. I will remember that." He gave a modest nod. But as she left the room, she caught him looking again at the tactical map, his expression unreadable. Outside the viewport, wrecked pirate ships drifted in the darkness. The battle was over. But something told her this quiet human had fought far greater wars than he wanted anyone to know. And though she didn't realize it yet, this cadet would soon become the key to her empire's survival, and to a revelation that would shake the entire galaxy. The Royal Transport Silver Crown cut through the deep blue of warp space, its engines humming softly. Inside, the corridors glowed with gold and white lights, a symbol of the Veldar Empire's elegance and power. Princess Lyria stood at the viewing window, her reflection faintly mirrored in the glass. Behind her, the small crew moved quietly. They were a mix of Veldar soldiers and a few cadets chosen for escort duty. Among them was Alex Ryder, still wearing his simple gray cadet uniform. He had been ordered aboard as a technical assistant, though no one really knew why. Lyria had not objected. Ever since the pirate attack on Virilia Prime, she had developed a strange curiosity about the human. He was calm under fire, quick in thought, and carried an air of quiet authority that didn't match his rank. Now, as the ship glided through the shining corridor of warp space, she studied the stars outside and said, "Earth is far from here. Do you not miss your world?" Alex looked up from the console where he was checking power readings. "Sometimes," he said, "but I think humans were never meant to stay in one place." We look at the sky and wonder what's next. Lyria smiled slightly. That curiosity will lead your kind into dangerous places. He nodded. It already has. For a moment they stood in silence, the ship drifting peacefully through the void. It felt like the calm before a storm neither of them could see coming. Hours later the calm was broken. A loud alarm echoed through the corridor, sharp and urgent. The pilot's voice filled the cabin. Your Highness, we've detected multiple warp signatures ahead. Unknown configuration. Lyria's eyes hardened. Battle stations! All power to shields. The silver crown dropped out of warp space. The stars stretched back into their normal shapes, and immediately, the crew saw them. Zerathian warships. Dark blade-like vessels drifted in formation, their crimson hulls reflecting the faint light of distant suns. They were known across the galaxy as ruthless conquerors, a race that destroyed entire systems to expand their reach. The lead ship broadcast a message on open channel. Veldar vessel, power down and surrender. The princess will be taken alive. The bridge fell silent. Lyria stood tall. Never, she replied, her voice strong. We fight to the last! The enemy ships opened fire. Blue lightning arced across the stars, slamming into the Silver Crown's shields. The ship shook violently, sparks flying from the ceiling panels. Shields at 40%, shouted one of the officers. Evasive maneuvers, Lyria ordered. Alex was already at the tactical console. His fingers danced over the controls. They're jamming our long-range signals. We can't call for help, he said. Then we make our stand here, Lyria answered firmly. For several minutes, the small ship dodged and weaved, returning fire with its limited cannons. The princess's voice stayed calm, but the situation was hopeless. The Zerathians were faster, stronger, and had numbers on their side. When a final blast struck their rear engines, the Silver Crown spun out of control. Stabilizers offline. We're going down! Brace for impact! The ship tore through the atmosphere of a nearby uncharted moon. Fire streaked across the sky as metal screamed against air. Then with a deafening crash, it hit the surface, sliding across the rocky ground before coming to a stop. Smoke filled the corridors. Systems flickered. Lyria coughed and pushed herself up from the deck. Report. The pilot's voice came weakly from the front. Engines destroyed. Communications down. We're stranded, Your Highness, she looked around. Several crew members were injured but alive. The ship's hull had held. Alex emerged from the smoke, a burn mark across his sleeve but otherwise steady. We need to secure the perimeter, he said calmly. You take command now, Cadet Ryder? One of the soldiers said bitterly. Alex didn't argue. He just moved past him to scan the sensors. Zerathian ships haven't landed yet. We have minutes, maybe less. Lyria stepped beside him. Can we repair the engines? Not in time, Alex said. But we can hide. Hide? From an army? He looked at her. From hunters, yes. The human's tone made her pause. There was something in it, a kind of experience that no academy could teach. Outside, the moon's surface stretched endless and gray, scattered with sharp rock formations. The air was thin but breathable. The survivors carried what supplies they could and set up a temporary shelter inside a small canyon near the wreck. As night fell, the sky turned violet. Strange floating crystals glowed faintly in the air, giving the land an eerie beauty. Lyria sat by the campfire, staring into the flickering light. Around her, the soldiers whispered in fear. They'll find us, one said. No one escapes the Zerathians. Alex was working quietly nearby, building a signal array out of spare parts. Finally, Lyria asked, You've seen battles before, haven't you, Alex? He didn't look up. A few. Then tell me, what do you think our chances are? He hesitated, then met her eyes. That depends on what kind of people we are. The ones who run or the ones who make others run. Lyria studied him. There was no arrogance in his voice, only certainty. Before she could respond, a faint hum echoed in the distance. The sound of incoming ships. Zerathians. The group scrambled for cover. Searchlights swept across the canyon as dark figures descended from the sky. The soldiers raised their weapons, Alex whispered. Don't fire until I say. The Zerathian landing craft touched down not far from the wreck. Dozens of armored troops marched out, scanning with energy rifles. Their leader, a tall figure with gleaming red armor, spoke into a comm device. Confirming wreck location. Begin search for survivors. Alex crouched beside a boulder, studying the terrain. He whispered to Lyria, "We can't outfight them here. But we can disappear." He tapped a small device on his wrist. A faint field shimmered across the rocks. "Personal camo emitter. Human design. Stay close." The field spread like mist, bending light around them. The soldiers vanished from sight. As the Zarathians advanced, their scanners flickered, unable to lock onto targets. One soldier looked around nervously. "I'm getting ghost readings." "Keep scanning," their leader barked. Lyria could feel her heart pounding as they walked right past her hiding spot. She glanced at Alex. He was completely still, eyes tracking every move. His calmness was unnerving. After several tense minutes, the Zarathians moved on toward the crash site. Alex whispered, "Now." They crept back through the canyon, keeping low. When they reached a higher ridge, they saw the enemy planting beacons around the wreck. "They'll call for reinforcements," Lyria said. "Not if I jam their signal," Alex replied. He climbed up the rocks and aimed a small EMP device. A blue pulse flashed silently and the beacons went dark. Below, the Zarathians shouted in confusion. "Signal lost. Someone's here, find them." The human and the princess ran back through the canyon. Behind them, red blaster fire lit up the night. They reached a narrow cave entrance and slipped inside. Inside the cave, the air was cool and still. Strange glowing vines lined the walls. The group stopped to rest. Lyria looked at Alex, still breathing hard from the run. "That was not the work of a simple cadet," she said quietly. "Who are you really?" Alex looked away, wiping dust from his hands. "Just someone who's been in the wrong places at the right times." That is not an answer. Before he could speak again, the ground shook. Distant explosions echoed outside. Alex checked the scanner. They called for heavy support. "Orbital scans show incoming destroyers. They'll glass this entire region. Then we have no chance." He turned to her, his expression calm but firm. "If we stay, yes. But if we move fast, if we reach that ridge to the north, there's a chance. I can contact someone." "Who?" He hesitated, then said softly, "People who don't like the Zarathians. People who owe me a favor." Lyria frowned. "What kind of people?" He met her gaze. "The kind that even predators fear." As dawn broke, the small group climbed toward the ridge. Smoke from their wreck rose behind them like a gray pillar. In the distance, the Zarathian ship spread across the sky, searching. Alex stopped once and looked up at the horizon. His eyes were cold, distant. "When they find out who's here," he said quietly, "this moon won't just be a battlefield. It'll be a warning." Lyria walked beside him. For the first time, she felt a strange mix of fear and respect. The more she saw of this human, the more she realized how little she knew about Earth and its soldiers. They reached the ridge as the morning sun rose over the barren land. Alex opened his communicator and typed a code. The device beeped once and sent a signal into the sky. A few seconds later, the clouds above shimmered and distant. Dark shapes appeared, not Zarathian ships. Something else, something far older, far deadlier. Lyria stared in shock. "Who are they?" Alex looked up, his face calm. "Apex predators," he said. "And they don't come for anyone. Except me." The early light of the twin suns spread over the gray land. The small group of survivors stood on the ridge, silent and tired. Princess Lyria shaded her eyes as she stared at the horizon, where several massive shapes drifted through the clouds. They weren't Zarathian ships. These vessels were darker, their hulls jagged and alive with red energy veins. They moved like beasts rather than machines. Her soldiers stepped back in fear. "Apex ships," one whispered. The name alone carried terror. The Apex Predators were a coalition of the most violent species in the galaxy, a group that no one fought and lived to tell the tale. They ruled the outer systems through power and fear. Lyria turned to Alex Ryder, her voice low but sharp. "You called them here? Are you mad?" "They will kill us all!" Alex's face remained calm. "They won't. Not if they know who they're talking to." Before Lyria could demand an explanation, the communicator on Alex's wrist began to pulse with a deep, echoing tone. A voice came through, cold, deep, and full of weight. "Unknown signal recognized. Identification code. Shadow Protocol 7 Delta. Confirm identity." Alex raised his wrist and spoke clearly. "Captain Alex Ryder, Human Shadow Corps. Authentication, Black Sun clearance." There was a pause. Then the voice changed, still rough but now respectful. "Captain Ryder, We did not know you were alive. Orders? Lyria's eyes widened. Captain? Alex's expression didn't change. Cease fire on all Veldar signals. The Zarathians are your new targets. Understood, the voice replied. We will engage. The transmission ended. Above them, the dark ships turned sharply, engines roaring. Moments later, the sky filled with streaks of red fire as the Apex fleet descended toward the Zarathian destroyers orbiting the moon. Lyria stood frozen, trying to process what she was seeing. The most feared hunters in the galaxy and obeying a human. She looked at him in disbelief. Captain Ryder? You told me you were a cadet. I was, he said quietly. Once! The air shook as explosions thundered above. From the canyon below, the survivors watched the battle unfold in the sky. Zarathian warships tried to form defensive lines, but the Apex vessels tore through them like predators through prey. The difference in power was terrifying. Lyria gripped the edge of a rock. They are destroying them. Completely. Alex nodded slightly. The Apex don't take prisoners. They respect power and fear weakness. She turned toward him, confusion and anger mixing in her eyes. And you control them? How? The Apex don't serve anyone. Alex didn't answer at first. He just watched the battle in silence. When he finally spoke, his voice was quiet but firm. I don't control them. But I earned their respect. How? He looked at her then, his eyes cold and distant. Once long ago, they tried to hunt us. The first time humans entered their space, they thought we were easy prey. Lyria swallowed. And what happened? Alex's jaw tightened. They learned humans don't run. After several hours, the sky grew quiet again. The smoke cleared and only the Apex fleet remained above the moon. The Zarathians had been wiped out completely. A small landing craft broke formation and descended toward the surface. The survivors backed away in fear, but Alex stood tall, waiting. The craft landed near the ridge and a massive figure stepped out. He was twice Alex's height, armored in dark metal that gleamed like obsidian. His face was hidden behind a curved mask with red eyes. He approached slowly, each step shaking the ground. Princess Lyria reached for her weapon, but Alex raised a hand. Don't. The giant stopped a few meters away and removed his mask. His skin was gray-blue and his eyes burned with intelligence. He bowed his head slightly, not in mockery but in genuine respect. Captain Ryder, the void howls again in your name. We thought you dead, Alex inclined his head. Not yet, Krevak. Still breathing. The alien made a deep sound, almost like a laugh. You always survive. Even the abyss failed to take you. Lyria could not believe what she was hearing. The Apex commander, the legendary warlord Krevak the Hunter, speaking respectfully to a human. Alex gestured toward her. This is Princess Lyria of the Veldar Empire. She and her people are under my protection. Krevak's eyes shifted toward the princess. His gaze was sharp, assessing. Veldar. Your kind once fought us at the Rim War. Lyria stood straight, refusing to show fear. And we lost, she said honestly. Krevak gave a nod of approval. You speak truth. I like that. He turned back to Alex. The Zarathians broke the old code. They attacked without honor. We will hunt them until none remain. Alex's expression stayed calm. Then your path and mine are the same. For now. Krevak grinned, showing rows of sharp teeth. As always human. The void still remembers you. He turned and signaled to his crew. Bring supplies. The humans' allies will not go hungry here. As the Apex soldiers began unloading crates of food and equipment, Lyria could only stare. The predators, beings who had once terrified empires, were helping them. Because of him. Later that night, a great fire burned near the crash site. The Apex soldiers worked alongside Veldar troops, repairing the human and alien tech into a temporary base. Lyria sat near the edge of the camp, still trying to understand. The stars reflected in her eyes and her thoughts were heavy. When Alex joined her, she didn't look up. You lied to me, she said quietly. He sat beside her. I didn't lie. I just didn't tell you everything. You were never a cadet. No, he said simply. I was placed on Varelia Prime undercover to observe how different empires prepare for war. Earth suspected something big was coming. The Zarathians confirmed it. She turned toward him, her expression hard. And you think you can stop them alone? Not alone, he said. But humans don't believe in losing. Not while we still breathe. Lyria studied him. You speak as if you've seen more wars than I can imagine. Alex's eyes darkened. I've seen enough to know what happens when good people do nothing. Across the camp, Kravak approached them. Captain Ryder, he said. My scouts report that Zarathian survivors are regrouping 2 systems away. They'll come for revenge soon, Alex stood. Then we'll need ships, Kravak grinned. You still have command codes for the old fleet? I do. Then say the word. The Predators will move. Lyria rose too, looking between the two of them. What are you planning? Alex looked at the fire, its glow lighting his calm face. To send a message, he said. One the galaxy won't forget. Kravak laughed loudly. The void loves your madness, human. As the night deepened, Lyria walked away from the fire and looked toward the horizon. The Apex ships floated like dark mountains in the sky, silent and powerful. She felt a strange mix of fear and awe. The galaxy had always seen humans as reckless newcomers and curious, emotional, unrefined. But now she saw something far more dangerous in them. Humans were not just survivors. They were adapters, fighters, learners. And when the worst came, they didn't hide behind walls. They stood in the open and faced it. She whispered softly. What kind of world creates a man who commands predators? Behind her, Alex's quiet voice answered. A world that had to fight for every sunrise. By dawn, the plan was ready. The Apex ships would carry the survivors back to the Veldar border, but not quietly. They would draw the Zarathians into open battle, where humanity's shadow fleets could finally reveal themselves. Before they departed, Kravak placed a hand on Alex's shoulder. If you die this time, human, I will take your bones to the void myself. Alex smiled faintly. You'll have to catch me first. Kravak laughed and boarded his craft. As the engines roared to life, Princess Lyria stood beside Alex and said, When this is over, the galaxy will remember your name. He looked at her. Names don't matter. What we do does. The Apex ships rose into the sky, engines burning bright against the stars. The ground shook beneath them as they vanished into the blackness above. Lyria watched until the last flame disappeared. For the first time in her life, she felt small before the vastness of humanity's mystery. She whispered, He was just a cadet, then paused, a small, awed smile touching her lips. Or so I thought. The great halls of the Veldar capital world trembled as news of the invasion spread. The skies above shimmered with defensive shields, and every tower pulsed with red alarms. The Zarathian war fleet had arrived, swift, merciless, and in numbers far greater than any had expected. Princess Lyria stood on the command platform, her silver eyes fixed on the holographic map before her. Blue lights, her empire's ships, flickered and vanished one by one under the red waves of enemy symbols. Around her, admirals shouted orders, officers panicked, and the once proud court of Veldar became a storm of fear. Alex Ryder stood near the edge of the room, silent and unreadable. He wore the same cadet uniform as before, though now it seemed almost out of place among the armored generals and royal guards. His calm presence felt like a stone in the middle of chaos. The third defense line has fallen, an officer cried. We've lost contact with the outer moons. Deploy the royal fleet, barked Admiral Torvik. We'll stop them before they reach the capital. They have already reached the capital, Alex said quietly. Everyone turned to him. Lyria blinked, unsure she'd heard correctly. What did you say, Cadet? The Admiral growled. Alex stepped closer to the holographic map. His voice was calm, measured. You're reacting too slowly. Their strategy is simple. They're not conquering your border worlds. They're driving your fleet inward, trapping you here. Human, Torvik hissed. You have no right to lecture us on warfare. We fought the Zarathians for generations, and lost to them, Alex replied, still looking at the map. Every time. Gasps echoed across the chamber. Lyria's jaw tightened. Enough, she said. Explain yourself, Alex Ryder. He tapped a control on the console. Look here. The Zarathians have divided your defense fleet into isolated pockets. They will crush them one by one before turning their guns on this planet. When that happens, your capital will burn within hours. The room fell silent. How do you know this? Lyria asked. I've fought them before, he answered simply. But not under this flag. The council chamber buzzed again. Whispers of disbelief, suspicion, and anger. Lyria looked at him carefully. You mean the humans have fought the Zarathians? Not exactly, Alex said. We studied them. We watched how they fought your kind, and we learned their habits. He turned his gaze toward the royal fleet's admiral. But I don't think your fleet will hold them off. You're outgunned and outmaneuvered. Torvik slammed his hand on the table. And what would you have us do, human cadet? Surrender? No, Alex said. Call for help. The Admiral laughed bitterly. From who? The apex predators? The Council? No one will come. Alex's expression didn't change. They will come if you call the right people. Lyria felt something stir inside her. She remembered the way the apex fleets had backed down from Alex in the grave spiral, the way the predators had treated him with a strange respect. A thought formed in her mind, one she almost didn't dare to speak. Alex, she said softly. Who are you really? He met her eyes. Someone who can make a call that changes wars. The chamber fell silent again. Lyria hesitated, then nodded. Do it. Minutes later, Alex stood alone in the Royal Communications Room. The air hummed as a secure channel opened, a frequency no one on Veldar had ever seen before. The holographic display flickered, showing a faint human emblem, a dark sphere with a blue line cutting through it like a scar. Authorization code, Shadow Core, Division Earth 12, Alex said. His tone was calm, but his eyes were focused like steel. This is Ryder, situation code red, galactic conflict escalation, requesting immediate intervention under Black Flag protocols. The voice that replied was low and steady. Understood, Commander Ryder. Confirmation required. Are Apex forces neutralized? Neutralized and standing by, he replied. They know the code. Then prepare planetary coordinates, the voice said. Fleet ETA, 6 minutes. The channel cut off. Lyria entered the room just as he turned away from the console. Who are you speaking to? She asked. Earth, he said simply. They're coming. 6 minutes later, the skies of Veldar burned, but not from the enemy. The stars vanished behind black silhouettes. Massive human warships appeared from the void, their hulls darker than space itself. They moved without sound, without signal, without fear. Their arrival bent the light around them, their engines whispering a deep hum that made the planet tremble. The Veldar generals stared in disbelief. By the stars. What are those things? The reason the apex predators stay quiet, Alex said. The Zerathian fleet tried to reposition, forming a blockade around the planet. But the humans did not engage in a normal battle. Their ships extended strange arms of light, linking together into a shimmering grid that swallowed the enemy in silence. No fire, no explosions, only flickers of white flashes where entire enemy squadrons vanished. What weapon is that? Lyria whispered. Graviton null fields, Alex explained. They erase mass. Fast and clean. The entire chamber watched as the human fleet moved like a single being, cutting through the Zerathians with surgical precision. The apex predators, observing from afar, soon joined the formation, massive beasts of metal saluting their human allies before driving their ships into the enemy's flank. Within an hour, the battle was over. The Zerathian warfleet, once feared across hundreds of systems, was gone. The Veldar sky cleared, revealing the blue glow of Earth's banners hovering peacefully above. The command chamber was silent when Alex finally spoke. Your world is safe, Princess. Lyria turned to him, still trying to understand everything she had witnessed. How could a race so new to the stars command such power? You said humans were not part of the Council, and yet the predators obey you. Alex looked toward the window, watching as the last of the human warships vanished into the dark. Because they've seen what we've done to survive. The galaxy thinks humans are fragile, but they don't understand where we come from. Earth was never kind to us. We learned strength the hard way. He turned back to her. You call the apex predators the most dangerous species in the galaxy. But they know better. They've seen what we are capable of. The room around them was quiet. Even the Veldar generals who had mocked him before now looked at him with a mix of awe and fear. One of them finally spoke. Why did you help us? Alex smiled faintly. Because she asked. Everyone looked at the princess. Lyria blinked in surprise, realizing what he meant. It wasn't about power or politics, it was about honor. Later, as the capital celebrated its survival, Alex stood alone near the balcony overlooking the stars. The human fleet had already disappeared, leaving behind only silence. Princess Lyria approached him quietly. You could have destroyed them all, she said. You could have taken this world. He shook his head. That's not why we came. Then why? She asked softly. He looked at her, his eyes calm and distant. Because some wars aren't fought for territory. They're fought to remind others what happens when they underestimate humanity. The wind stirred her silver hair as she looked at him, speechless. For the first time, she saw not a cadet, not a soldier, but something deeper. A protector. A being who carried the weight of countless worlds on his shoulders. As he turned to leave, the stars reflected in his eyes like distant fires, and somewhere beyond those stars, the apex predators stood in silent respect for the one human they dared not cross. The skies of Veldar were calm once more. The battle was over. The Zarathians were scattered and broken. Apex predators had returned to the dark edges of space, their respect for humanity cemented. In the royal palace, Princess Lyria stood on the balcony, looking over the city. Fires that had once marked destruction were now extinguished, replaced by soft golden lights. The streets were alive with citizens cheering their survival, though many whispered in awe of the humans who had intervened. Behind her, footsteps echoed softly. She turned to see Alex Ryder standing there, still in his simple gray uniform. His face was calm, unreadable as always. But something in his eyes had changed. They held the quiet weight of someone who had carried entire worlds on his shoulders. "You did more than survive, Alex," Lyria said softly. "You saved Veldar, and more than that, you reminded the galaxy of what humans can do." He nodded, his gaze distant. "I did what I had to do. That's all. Do you ever tire?" she asked. "Of fighting, of carrying so much responsibility?" He looked at her then, really looked at her. "Humans are not perfect, Princess, but we keep moving forward. Every battle teaches us something. Every loss shapes us, and every life we protect makes it worth it." Lyria felt a shiver run through her. She had met many warriors, many leaders, but none carried quiet strength like this human. He wasn't loud or boastful or proud of titles. He simply did what needed to be done. The next morning, the council chamber was filled with alien leaders from across the coalition. They had gathered to witness the aftermath of the battle. The Veldar Empire had survived, and they owed their lives to a cadet no one had taken seriously. Princess Lyria, a senior Veldar admiral, said, his tone formal, "You have shown courage in the face of annihilation, but we must acknowledge the one who guided your survival." Alex Ryder stepped forward, but the princess raised a hand. "He is no ordinary cadet," she said firmly. "He is not here for glory, and he does not seek it. But the galaxy would be unwise to ignore him." The council murmured. Some were skeptical, some awed. None could deny what had happened. The Zarathians were destroyed, and Veldar had survived against impossible odds. One elder finally asked, "And who is this human? From where does he come?" "He is from Earth," Lyria said, her voice steady. "A planet few of us knew could produce such warriors. He is our ally, and he has saved us all." The room fell silent. Then slowly the leaders began to nod. Respect, fear, and curiosity mixed in their eyes. Later, in the palace gardens, Lyria walked with Alex. The moonlight reflected off the water, painting the world in soft silver. "You never asked for titles," she said. "You never asked for reward." Alex shook his head. "I do not fight for recognition. I fight because someone has to, because the weak cannot always protect themselves." "You could have stayed hidden," she said. "Why reveal yourself?" He looked up at the stars. "Because some things cannot remain secret. Humanity has waited too long to be underestimated. If others think we are fragile, they will make mistakes that cost lives. I can prevent that one battle at a time." Lyria smiled faintly. "Then the galaxy has much to learn from humans." "Yes," Alex said simply, "and from those willing to fight beside them." Days later, the survivors began to rebuild. Veldar ships were repaired, fleets reorganized, and citizens returned to their homes. Yet the story of the cadet, who had commanded predators and reshaped the galaxy, spread quickly. Across the stars, aliens whispered about a human who was neither king nor general, yet commanded power that no one else could. Even the apex predators left messages etched in data networks across the coalition. "The human rider walks among you. Do not test him. Respect the void and respect him more." Lyria read this in quiet awe. "He has changed everything," she murmured to herself. Alex stood nearby, watching the stars. "Change is never easy," he said, "but it is necessary." Lyria looked at him, her eyes softening. "And what will you do now?" He smiled faintly, a rare moment of warmth. "I will continue. There are other places, other systems. Darkness never rests and neither can we. Her smile grew. Then perhaps the galaxy has a protector it never knew it needed. Weeks passed. Veldar celebrated its survival with grand ceremonies, though Alex remained in the background. He refused honors, declined titles, and never asked for fame. He was simply the cadet who had been underestimated, and who had quietly shown the galaxy what humans could do. Princess Lyria watched him often. There was a respect in her gaze that others could not understand. She had seen courage, strategy, and calm under fire, but more than that, she had seen humanity at its finest. One evening, she approached him as the stars gleamed overhead. "Alex," she said softly, "the galaxy owes you more than it can repay. But I want to repay you in one way you cannot refuse." He raised an eyebrow. "And what is that?" She smiled, a mix of pride and sincerity. "You will always have a place here, among Veldar, and among those who fight for what is right. You are not just a cadet, Alex Ryder, you are a legend." Alex looked at her for the first time, allowing a small smile. "A legend?" he asked. "Yes," she said. "One the galaxy will not forget." For the first time, the human allowed himself to relax. The battle was over. The people were safe, and for a moment, he did not have to fight. Months later, Veldar ships explored the frontier once more, with humans quietly guiding their fleets from hidden stations across the stars. The Zarathians were wary, never attacking again. The apex predators watched silently, respecting the human who had commanded them once and changed the rules of the galaxy. Princess Lyria often stood on her balcony, looking to the skies. When she saw a dark shadow sweep across the stars, the unmistakable signature of a human fleet, she smiled. She no longer thought of him as just a cadet. She thought of him as a protector, a teacher, a force the galaxy had underestimated for far too long. And as Alex Ryder passed by her again, calm and unreadable as ever, she knew one thing for certain. The galaxy would never be the same. Humans had arrived. And they had shown that courage, intelligence, and determination could outmatch even the fiercest predators. For Princess Lyria, the lesson was clear. Heroes often come in the most unexpected forms, and sometimes, a single cadet could change the course of the entire galaxy. She watched him disappear into the night, leaving the stars behind him like a trail of fire. And somewhere deep in the void, a message echoed among all who had survived. The humans are here. Respect them, fear them, and never forget, they fight for more than survival. "They fight for everything," Princess Lyria whispered to herself, a small, proud smile on her lips. Just a cadet. Until the apex predators stepped aside. And with that, the galaxy knew the story of humanity had only just begun. The end.